So welcome back, everybody. This is Kelly Katalinas with Fairway Independent Mortgage, and I have the pleasure today of interviewing Robert Fredeen with AGM Institute. And Robert is a college financial aid specialist, and this is part 2 in our 3-part series of talking about how best to position yourself to obtain financial aid for your student. Today, we're going to focus on home ownership and mortgages as it impacts financial aid. Welcome, Robert. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you.
So tell us, Robert, how does home ownership affect college financial aid?
So, as we covered before, there's 2 different methods. There's 2 different methodologies. Well, technically, there's 3 methodologies. FAFSA covers pretty much almost every school requires the free application for student or federal application, free application for federal student aid. Everybody requires that. That's roughly 100 questions. It's actually coming down a little bit. When you look at folks that only use FAFSA, and there's great schools that only use FAFSA. Clemson is a great school that uses FAFSA. Home ownership is not a big part of the equation for your primary home. So we're going to circle back to that in a second. So in that scenario, it's not a really big factor. But when you go to something called the CSS, College Scholarship Search, when you look at their profile, this is 4 times as many questions, or 3.5 times as many questions. And home ownership is a factor here. They're going to ask they're going to want to know what the equity in your primary home is. And depending on the school, if that equity exceeds 300 or some of them are 500,000, they're going to reduce financial aid offers by a percentage of that. It's going to count as the parent's asset. Now, I think something that's going to be relevant for a lot of your audience, what happens when you have a rental property? Both of them, 100% of that equity goes straight through to the bottom line. And you are expected to contribute based on that. Now, is it like 100%? No, of course, it's not. It's about 5.6%. But at the same time, if you have your assets spread out in real estate, you're going to have to figure out how to get the cash out of that real estate when it comes time to pay for college. So that's one of the things now one of the nice things is, I did point out, it's the equity. When you have a mortgage, if you just bought a house and you're at, you put down 20% and you have 80% mortgage, that's actually ends up being a good thing because that's less money. They do at least give you a little bit of a break there. But the key thing is that, and also on the CSS profile, I'm not sure if I mentioned it, your primary home counts. Rental properties always count. Your primary home counts there. FAFSA, it does not. Make sense?
Yeah, so very distinct differences between those 2. The mortgage you have, obviously, and how much of a mortgage you have actually does impact how much you might be eligible for based on which methodology you're using.
Yeah,
either one or the other or both. Exactly.
And again, it is, some schools, and when all said and done, there's also another school of thought called the consensus method. It's only used by, I don't even think they're up to 30 schools at this point. Those schools do look at your home equity, but generally where you get into trouble is when you have rental properties, which is ironic because everyone, myself included, says, hey, rental properties are great. They're less great when you got kids going to college. That's all.
Yeah. So, I mean, being a lender for the last 30 years, we talk to people with a lot of different intentions when they take out a mortgage. Sometimes it's a forever home and they want to advance payment, right? They want to pay less interest over time because they want to own their home faster. So you and I have discussed this before and said that might not be the best program for someone who's looking to apply for financial assistance for college applications. So explain that a little bit more.
Yeah, so you honestly, when it comes to mortgages and what the best, most efficient way when you're trying to qualify for financial aid, 15-year mortgages are not your friend, pure and simple. You want a 30-year mortgage. I know that there are longer terms out there. I'm not quite ready to go find a 100-year mortgage. That's probably not a good call. But a 15-year mortgage, because you're paying more money, yes, you're building your equity, but again, your equity, depending on the school, comes back to haunt you. So building equity is not what you want to be doing right now. One of my clients, I had to point out to him that it wasn't a ton, But by paying extra on his mortgage every year, he was decreasing the amount of financial aid, of need-based financial aid that his son was offered. And so it's kind of a double whammy. He doesn't have access to that money anymore, and now the school wants more money. So you want to try to avoid that. That's one of the key things, is that it is, I kind of chuckled at my boss who's preparing to send his third child to college, and he just refinanced his house. And he went to as far as he refinanced for as much as he could get, because he knows that every dollar of equity is going to count against him in just another, 18 months.
So interesting. So, refinancing should accomplish several things for people, right? You're hoping to advance, get a good interest rate. But in this case, it was easy for your boss to take the larger mortgage payment that way, right? To see if he could obtain greater financial aid. There's nothing stopping him at a later point from paying down his mortgage, right? But from the standpoint of timing with children that are advancing to higher education, it may not be prudent, to put a high down payment down if you're buying a house, or, to hold on to that big equity position at the time those children are ready to go to college.
It really doesn't, because the schools, and we actually have a letter response from a well-known college that basically told the family that you didn't have to pay that extra money, and that's why they won't give you any more financial aid. Even though this family paid an extra $20,000 or $30,000 on their mortgage, the school literally cited that as the reason they would not give them any extra money. They basically said, you had the money, you didn't give it, and you could have given it to us, but you didn't. Well, we want it anyway. And here's the thing. The other issue that I have with it, and I've had this issue for a long time, when you can build up home equity, and it's great. And I love looking at that number. I totally get that. But here's the catch. If someone came to me right now and said, we need $300,000 premier home equity by Thursday. Yeah, how am I going to pull that off? It doesn't work that way. And so that's one of the things that people need to keep in mind. Mortgages are like every other financial tool. It's a tool. You need to use it, and need to make sure that you understand how that tool affects all the other stuff. And in this case, a mortgage is an awesome tool to help parents navigate college financial aid and reduce the out-of-pocket cost for college.
And I think this is a really good time to talk about timing here, right? A lot of people don't, when they first have their children, don't necessarily, or might not necessarily think about college right away. Okay. They might be a delayed reaction to start planning for college.
Yep.
I think if you could touch on the timing of that, when is a good time that someone should look at this, possibly call you to consult with what's our strategy? My child is 5 years old, right? They're going off to college in 12 years. What's our strategy here? Tell us a little bit about what you do with them and how they can plan accordingly over time. Because I do believe sooner is better than later, obviously, so they would have more choices. But tell us a little bit about how that process works and what you would advocate for that particular client.
Sure. It is, like you said, it's financial matters. It's financial planning. Earlier is going to be better. And I understand that, I also understand that when it's, we're humans, when you're something's 12 years out, it might as well be never, because that's how our brains work. I get that. Having said that, a lot of the stuff that you're told to do with when you have little kids, when you're talking about college, it doesn't help you. A 529 plan is not your friend. And that's one thing that people just don't understand. But in terms of like when you should start looking at this, I will tell you, at least half of our clients, we get that phone call, if we're lucky, second semester of junior year, but really we get it summer to first semester of senior year. And I will tell you, I've lost a lot of my tools at that point. There's a lot of things I can't do at that point. The die's already cast. Your finances are already set, because it's not that year they're asking, it's the year before, you're supposed to have already filed those taxes. I can't affect anything there. So I would say realistically, when parents are motivated, you know, again, sooner is better. If you have a 5-year-old, we can set things up so that you're ready for whatever change kind of comes down the pike. Obviously, when you get freshman year of high school is really when you should be talking to us. Excuse me. You have, at that point, you have a pretty good idea academically of what's going to make sense for your student. And at that point, we're going to have a better idea of what kind of college they're going to want to go to. Because I'm old enough that basically if you had a bachelor's degree, that's really all you needed. It didn't matter where or what. That's less true today. And it probably wasn't that much true when I was a kid. I just told myself that. But we need to start, you need to start figuring out the directions that you want to go. Doesn't mean that you have to decide exactly where you're going to go when you're 13 years old. No. But you do need to have some idea, because that kind of drives the options. The other thing is that, look, when we're looking at saving money for college for kids and for the parents, for the money they're putting aside, we design it to be flexible because we don't know. And you know what? Look, the kid could be, who knows what's going to happen, right? There's a lot of things that happen as a kid grows up, and you might not, and the kid may suddenly decide that they want to go to this college, or suddenly change that they want to go and decided that plumbers are making $150,000 a year. Why would I put myself through college? Why would I go through that stress when I can go and do this? And maybe they love it. Maybe they're unlike me, good with their hands and can fix things. Then there's so we want to make sure there's that flexibility, but really it becomes crucial in high school. Absolutely crucial. It is important in middle school, and something should be done as soon as possible.
Wonderful. Well, I really want to thank you. I mean, I know we've covered a lot today, and we're going to come back with part 3 of our series. But again, if you could repeat for our listeners, how can they reach out to you if they want to consult with you about their particular situation so that they're in the best possible situation for their child attending college? Sure.
The single best way to reach me is going to be to call or text 703-727-9276. Like I said, call or text, either one works. That's the best way to reach me. Second best way is going to be email, and that is Robert F. Apples and Frank, ROBERTF, at AGM Institute, Alpha Golf Mike Institute.org. So those are the 2 best ways to contact me.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time today, and we'll be back with part 3.
Thank you.